Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob, me, your griot. So, I'm a friend of mine lent me this car because my other vehicle is not doing too good. My only vehicle, and so it's nice to have friends who here have my other car. um, and that's nice. So getting around. I was at the doctor. I had all kinds of little things going wrong with me, like my car. Um, my health. So I have all these, major things: diabetes, aplastic anemia, arthritis. All the stuff from living in America, the environmental crucible, and um, and this is my all-purpose mask. I can be this, I can be this, I can be this. Anyway, and everyone thinks, oh my God, the world's falling apart. No, the world has always been this way. I mean, I'm old enough to remember Vietnam. I'm old enough to remember Korea. Wasn't around for World War II, but my dad was, and boy, it messed him up. And the whole nuclear nightmare. You know, I nearly lost my life to that. I was in a Catholic school, and we were just outside where Ground Zero was, and every other day they had us get down on our knees and get under our desks and do the rosary, and I wouldn't do it. I just kind of sat in my chair and get on your knees and say the rosary. I'll say the rosary. I like the rosary, but sister, see that building right there? That's the Empire State Building, and there, that's Ground Zero, and they're going to drop a hydrogen bomb on that if they're going to drop anything, and we'll be turned into atoms. So I don't think getting under the desk is gonna. And she picked me up by my neck and broke my jaw, broke my orbit, crushed my esophagus. I was in first grade. That was my experience of the Catholic Church. And I later found out that this lady was actually a Nazi. She was known in the death camps as the milkmaid of pain. So this has always been. You know, we are where we were at the fall of the Byzantine Empire. It's exactly overextending military expenditure, and we got out of whoops, Afghanistan. We let the Taliban's on our payroll. And we stayed there 20 years and milked $2 trillion out of it into the military industrial complex. But all of this is irrelevant because what's important is you. Who are you? How are you doing? Sandra, back. Hey, Bubba. And that's what it's about. I mean, we have to build an alternative aesthetic to the same old same. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, Hamlet's killed everyone and won, and him and his buddies are in the king's chamber, and he's sitting in the chair, and his buddies jumping, we won, we won, we won, and he looks at him, what's so wrong, Hamlet? Why are you so down? And he goes, tomorrow, and he goes, what do you mean tomorrow? He says, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. That's the end of Hamlet. He's going to, he's realizing that nothing has changed and his life still sucks and he's still going to have to deal with tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Um, Whereas if you go into a state, right? And so there's a good friend of mine, Mojo, Moji, right? And there are a few others who been around a long time. I met these guys when they first came over from South Asia into America in the 60s and 70s to try and enlighten and make some money and have a good time and all the rest, right? He has a good channel, and if you go on his channel, you'll other people will be stuck on your channel too. And they do very nice simple guided meditations. Here is one. You know, sit in your chair, relax, breathe deep, and say, "Conscious intent, I am. Conscious intent, I am. Conscious intent, I am. Om." Say it 3 times. No, and you do that for 5 minutes. It'll change your whole feeling of what's going on in your world. Right? I do that every day. A little piece of strawberry I was eating. Uh, well, that's all I'm eating today. Right? And you can also say conscious awareness. So conscious and whatever intent, awareness, loving, I am. Right? And that's you being the observe, not the observer, but the decider. You are deciding to be consciously aware, consciously have an intent, right? Most people just react. My deep green is being totally invaded by people who think they're rich, um, and they spend money mindlessly, and then they don't have it, and they go broke. You know, so this whole horde of cockroaches from California and Florida and Texas and New Jersey and New York have, I don't know how, they were like encircling in the last 20 years. I found this place and there was nobody. And then, I had been in Asheville and there was nobody in Asheville and it was a great place. I was there for 10 years. I, went, taught and did research at UNC and UNCA and a number of other places. And I would go to these places that were like the metaphor of America. And, the people who were paying me to study the trends, I didn't have to go anywhere, right? And then I went to Roanoke and, first I was in Soho in the 60s, right? And then Tribeca in the 70s. And then Williamsburg, Brooklyn in the 80s. And then I went to Europe, in the 70s and 80s, but I would come back, and then I was on the Lower East Side in the mid to end of the 80s, and then I went to Ithaca, and then I went to Asheville, right? And every time I went there was nobody there. It was the coolest place ever. The few people who were there were really amazing, and then Asheville is it's like ash pit. It has the most deadly drinking water in America. Because during the Depression, Asheville was the Paris of the South, right? All the rich people, the Astors, the Biltmores, all those guys had big castles in the mountains, and all the the perfunctories came along, the artists and everything. And in the 20s, it was the groove place, and so it was growing and growing and became a city instead of a town. And it was in a mountain range, right? So they cut off a bunch of mountains, flattened the center part of that area, and they named all the cities after New York City: Lexington, Broadway, Wall Street, Madison. They tried to make it a little New York City, and they put in because up until then people were just sitting, crapping on the sidewalk over there. They had, cesspools everywhere. So they put in sewers and water lines and roads and tunnels and built the city county plaza. They spent, 10, 20, $30 million, whatever. And then the Depression came. And Asheville did not finish paying its Depression debt until 1996. So nobody would lend them any money. So that's why it was like stuck in amber. And that's why it was so cool. That's why all the architecture was amazing. In the 50s and 60s and 70s, they didn't, bulldoze everything to the ground, or the 80s, But the 90s, after 96, bing, and I left in '99. I mean, I kind of left in '96, but I kept going back because I had a place there, and my parents were nearby, and I was taking care of them. So, and I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of fun. I did a lot of great things in it. One of the reasons why it's the hipster jungle it is because you know, I did it. I mean, there was a place called the Orange Peel that I had gone to in the early '70s back in the day. It was a great nightclub, black nightclub. And then when I got there, it was closed. Everything was closed. And I used to just break in. I mean, I knew the police chief. I knew all the cops. There was nobody in that town. All the head cheeses I knew, and they liked me because they knew that I was like spinning their little investment up. And there was a guy named Roger McGuire and Vince Moran and a really really good guy who was the heir to um, the tobacco fortune. And he tried to do it right. He tried to make it a place for the people who were there and people who could make it better. But he died. He got married to this girl who was like a sustainability, princess. And as soon as he died, she made sure that he married her, and then um, she took him to South America. He got bit by a chichi fly and he died. And she then got the fortune, and she went whole hog on materialism. She was a Buddhist and she was sustainability. And once she had that money, and that's what Asheville is today. So why it's such a deadly place is that when the Depression came, the guy who put in all of the guys who did stuff, leveled off the city, put the sewers and the water and all of that, they didn't get paid. So the guy who did the sewer and water lines, he was pissed. So what did he do? He burnt all of the documentation of where all of the sewer and water lines are, and they're all made out of terracotta, right? And so over the years, kind of mountains, it kind of rumbles, and so basically, everyone in Asheville is drinking their own shit. And all they could do in the water company there was just add more and more and more chlorine, right? And all it did was, strengthened, the bugs that could live through the chlorine. Um, you know, they're the ones. So if you have a compromised immune system, you don't want to go there. About 30,000 people die from drinking the water in Asheville, and they're not even Ashevilleans. They're tourists who come and have a cocktail with an ice cube in it and go back to Ohio. So it's so none of this matters. What matters is your spirit. This you are not your body. This is not you. I mean, I've got all these things wrong with me, and it's not my body. So I can, you know, my blood pressure went up in there because they were asking me all kinds of stupid questions, and it was like, eh. So my blood pressure went up, right? Of course, right? Wow. What can I say? Um, and I haven't been able to do this much because I have very limited access to the internet. Now I'm thinking of going back to John and hanging with him, and then going across country because that'll be some. I mean, I've been here now 2 years. I mean, straight. I mean, I've had this place in the deep green for 20 years, and I would spend a month or two or three a year here because it was so, and especially when no one was here, it was so nice. And I basically, then spent 2 years. When John finally threw me out, 32nd time, I said, "Well, good. I'm just going to go live in the deep green." And I did, and I rewired myself in medicine wise. But the medical model is a joke. It is. I mean, this place that I go to, that is a nonprofit, one of the last left. That I can, patch together to take care of me. They only have one doctor, and they take care of 3,800 people. They got nurse practitioners, but I mean, like the girl who took all of my, blood pressure and everything. So I said, "So you're a nurse?" Oh, she goes, "No." I said, "What'd you go to school for?" And she goes, "Finance." And I said, "What are you doing here?" She goes, "Well, it pays pretty good. Pays $12 an hour." Back in 1972, the average hourly, the hourly income that was set by the government was $1.75, I think. And if you were to take that $1.75 in 1972 money and then bring it to today in 2021, that $1.75 is worth $35, right? But if you take the $15 an hour that no one gets, and bring it down to 1972, that would be worth 35 cents. So basically, if you're getting $15 an hour, you're making 35 cents, you know. So this stuff is a joke, you know, and no one seems to want to see it, to understand it, to feel it. I mean, look, there's zero people watching, and this doesn't matter. What matters is your spirit. So your body is just an avatar, right? It's not you. This is not me. This is just an avatar for me being here, right? And your soul is like the server. The true essence of you is your spirit, because your spirit is that of, um, you know, one love. Love's co-creation. That's your spirit, right? But we let ourselves be distracted by our avatar, our body, our job, our relationships, all of those things. Those things are just learning tools. Our avatar is just a learning tool, and we don't learn anything. So we get on the karmic wheel after we die. We have to come back and do it over and over. And that's what Shakespeare was saying when Macbeth was, and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, right? Not just for tomorrow, forever. And this ain't gonna stop. Even if we, I mean, look, a gigantic rock hit the planet and killed everything on it, but didn't. Because like 6 million years later, here we are. You know, and we are like the extraction of the karmic energy of the dinosaurs. We are the dinosaurs. So to get upset about Donald Trump or Obama or JoJo. Oh, excuse me. Or Dick Cheney, who was our 43rd president, forget about it. What you need to do is love unconditionally yourself and everyone around you. You know. So as the cockroaches come into my little neighborhood, it's annoying. It's really sad to see what they're doing. I mean, they're destroying everything. I mean, they cut off tops of hills. We just had a big rainstorm, probably 5 inches. And right, here, this mountain over here, they cut up the top and they're building 20 million, they're building all these micro gated communities, each house, 2 million and up. And they have some big ones that went, belly up 15 years ago, and they were bought, and now they're blowing that out, and they are just taking trees down everywhere up here. So when the rain comes, it goes in the ground, and then goes that away and blows out the side of the hill down lower part where the road is. So in the last 3 months, we have had 4 gigantic blowouts of the sides of hills onto the roads. Now it's probably costing the county and the state mostly, and the federal government millions of dollars. Do they charge the millionaires who are causing this? No. Do they say, listen, if you're going to do that, you have to do this, remediation, drainage? No, They just let them go nuts. And that's another reason we have no building codes in our county. And so they're just going nuts. It's like unbelievable. Now, that could really upset me. The other thing that was upsetting is that in the last 3 years, there were about 20 mom and pop general stores in our neck of the county. And it was nice, meaning there was one, two, I could walk there, right? I used to, before my legs gave out. And they had a big garden. And so they had fresh vegetables, tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, corn, onions, you name it. They grew it right there. No GMOs, no pesticides, no nothing. Great, great, great vegetables. And they would have ketchup and mustard and toilet paper and eggs and milk. And Dollar General came in and strategically put 5 stores that wiped those 20 stores out. Now, all those stores, mom and pop, were employing all their family and a few other people. So I did a little, about 10 years ago when they were all still here, I did a little, demographic study, and they were the largest employer in our corner of the county. They employed 200 people. The 5 stores that are, and Dollar General is designed to be run by 3 people. Everything comes off a big truck on these rolly things. They roll them in, they just stick them right there, and you take the stuff off that, and there's someone going beep, 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 and they're going to soonly, get rid of those 3 people. So those 5 employ Dollar General stores, make something to the order of $20 million a year. And the home office, that money goes out of our county and goes into the corporate world, right? Whereas back in the day, we had 20 stores employing 200 people, and all the money stayed in our county. And this is what's kind of going on everywhere, not just here, but everywhere. And soon, so this thing that happened in Afghanistan, when they went into it, I remember being, at a symposium on, Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, after 9/11 and before 2003, I was at a new school symposium, and we were like saying what was going to go down. And I said, so this was going to go down. We're going to invade Iraq. That thing, guys, did you read that thing, the New World Order of the, neoliberal, did you read that? The thing that was put together by Dick Cheney and Dick Armey and all the other dicks, and Bremer, that guy, he was in Vietnam. He caused the end of Vietnam, meaning there were many times in Vietnam that they could have negotiated. There were 4 different times that the Taliban wanted to work it out. But we didn't want that. We wanted to max out our, so the military-industrial complex could make more and more money. And then when they squeezed everything out of the lemon, they just went away, left everyone holding the bag. And the Taliban, I would say, is on their payroll. So that was pretty obvious. And I said, the whole Middle East is, going to go down. All of these, and I had been in all those countries. I had been in Iraq. I had been in Syria. I had been because I was living in Sweden, and I had a Swedish driver's license. And the Swedes, the people were so neurotic there, they gave everyone a vacation. Not just, hey, take 2 weeks off and we'll pay you your salary. No. They paid for the vacation, the airplane ride, the hotel, the tours, the food, everything. And the people were so neurotic, about 20, 30%, when, they would be all booked up, and then they wouldn't show up. So if you went to the Stockholm airport, they had this big board that said, okay, flight going to here, Afghanistan, and this was 1972, 73, 74. And I would just, and it was free. So I had my little, I had my American passport, but I, kind of put it over here. But I would use my Swedish driver's license and my international driver's license to show that I was a European citizen and a Swedish guy. And I would get on, and they would just, I would just walk on. They would just kind of glance at it and stamp a visa that said that I was Swedish and I could go to, Syria. I could go to Iraq. I could go to Iran. And I did, because it was free. FREE, right? And nice hotel and tours, and once I got the Swedish people are wild and crazy once they get out of the country. I mean, stay out of the country, expats, and so all these Swedish guys were there, being tourist guides to the boring gray Swedes. And I get off the airplane with shorts and cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, and they go, "Oh, you're a kind of guy." And so they would show me the downside of, the down low, the down good side, the up down side of where we were. Like when I was in Syria, I was in Damascus. I went out with these guys, and we put the old farts to bed around 10, and then we went out. And first we went to a disco, and then we went to a nightclub, and then we went to the down low kind of music and hookah bars. And then the poetry kind of things, which were more political, and then the more political, where they were talking about stuff. And by that time, it was like 3 a.m. and everyone was like drunk and stoned, and so I did that, in Damascus for a week, and I ran into these guys who were very cool, who were like, considered by Bashar as and so they had secret police, but I was in my mid-20s then, and when I wasn't drunk or stoned, I was pretty aware of what was going on. But when I wasn't, I was just like Mary Poppins. And I went with these guys to this underground club that was great, and we were drinking. I have no idea what absinthe and smoking. So I was like, "Whoa!" Right? And at one point, I was like 3 in the morning, and I said, "I gotta go to bed." And I just kind of walked. And I said, no. And I went out the door, and I kind of stumbled around. I had no idea where the heck I was. And there's this guy leaning against the car. I thought he was a cabbie. I said, "Hey, I gotta get home." He goes, "Where are you staying?" I told him the name of the hotel. I said, "Oh, jump in the car." And he took me there, and he knew who I was. I just thought I was a guy from Sweden then. He knew who I was. He knew who Al Bob was. And we had a great little conversation. Yes, I was plastered and on another planet. And we get there, and all the hotels, if you're not in by midnight, you're not getting in. Well, he went up to the door, and he was the secret police. And he got the guy behind the desk, and they came and got me, and they dragged me up to my room, and they stuck me in the shower, and then they threw me in bed, and then they left me there. And then the tour guides came. So where did you get off to? Oh man, my head. Anyway, a couple of days later, I end up with those same guys again in another place, and they said, "We thought you were," and they said, "You went out of here. We couldn't grab you." I said, "Yeah, what happened?" I said, "You know who that guy you told?" "Yeah, it was a cabbie, nice guy." "No, that was the secret police. We thought you were." And that was the thing about all of those countries. They had more or less more freedom than we do in America. It was just they kept an eye on everyone. But now we have cell phones, and we live in a we have a surveillance economy, meaning we got these little cell phones